February 24th. And would you rise, please, and we're going to say the Pledge of the Flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to start off with the approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, any changes?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I want to explain, Paul isn't here tonight, and we didn't know that to the last minute, so we're shuffling papers a little bit here. We'll get it all together. Next presentation is from the public comments. We want to have Michael Kletzing. Got yours. So glad to see you.
Thank you, Mary. I'll be brief because the primary focus is the presentation of the gold medal plaque to the Township Board. Let me please introduce Rich Brodsky. He is the Executive Director of the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration, which is the organization that sponsors the Gold Medal Award. So, Rich.
Great.
Thank you and good evening. Madam Chairwoman,
Thank
you for having me tonight. The American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration is an organization that was formed in 1980 based on the National Park and Recreation Association's Constitution of 1965, which allowed for an Academy for Parks and Recreation to be formed. It took them a little while to get their act together, but certainly that has happened. It's made up of 188 members, of which 125 are active members, and the balance are all emeritus members. The Academy is one of the think tanks, if you will, for parks and recreation across the United States. It's quite an arduous process to get into the Academy, but it's all done by nomination and qualification based. Not unlike the National Gold Medal. The National Gold Medal was started in 1965 and is entering its 50th year. It is a national program that was first started by the National Park and Recreation Association and taken over in 1995 by the American Academy because NRPA at the time wanted to make sure that there was an absolute hands-off review of all applications that came in so that there could never be an accusation that it was a political type of award, which it is not to this day. While the Academy manages the program through a committee of about 16 people that do various things such as publicity, question review, the judges, while they report directly to the Academy Board, appoint and select from outside the Academy. As a matter of fact, the Academy Board members do not even know who the finalists are or the Grand Plaque awardees until the same time that everybody else finds out about it. And that's done on purpose. I'll illustrate that by telling a very, very quick story. About 2 years ago during the state park presentation, state parks are done every 2 years, the director of the NRPA at the time was called by a state governor whose state was in the finalist category for for the gold medal for state parks. And some pressure was put on the director of the National Park and Recreation Association to find that out because the next day that particular state park's budget was being reviewed by their finance committee of their General Assembly. So as we were at the festivities the evening before the formal announcement was made, the director of the National Park and Recreation Association asked to talk to me on the side. And she said, Rich, I need to know, you have to tell me who the state park is that's getting the Grand Plaque tomorrow. And I said, why would that be? And she said to me, well, I got a call from a governor today. And he is very interested in knowing whether his state park agency will in fact be the winner because it'll help get his budget through for their appropriations. And I said I couldn't tell her. Now, because it is separate, and we want to make sure that it stays that way. You've gone through one heck of a process to get to the point of being a Grand Plaque recipient. Your staff, you as a board, the Recreation Advisory Board, the City Council, you are the enablers, you are the folks, and I can say this after almost 40 years in the business myself, that allow the staff to do these great programs, provide these wonderful services, without you in the background saying, yes, let's get out there and make these things happen, it doesn't happen. So I would ask, as I do at most of the presentations, to give you all a round of applause for wonderful enabling your staff and professionals to do that. Thank you. I understand from Don, told me that everybody's getting accredited around here, which is absolutely terrific. From fire department to police department to your parks and recreation department. I guess there's a couple other in the
Communications.
Communications. That says a lot about the way you all govern here. And coming from Illinois and around the metropolitan area, it's refreshing to me to be in a community that really prizes those kinds of activities. So it is without further ado that the American Academy for Parks and I forgot how heavy these were. The Academy of Parks and Recreation Administrators presents to you, Carmel Clay, the National Gold Medal for Parks and Recreation for the year 2014. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You want to come out?
There's pictures being taken. I want to suggest that you guys just hold it down just so that there's no weight. Go better hold it. That's it.
It's heavy.
Okay.
That's why I go to exercise.
We all set? It's happening. Oop. Go to that side, just so they can see it. Thank you again. In 5 years, you're eligible again. We expect to see your application.
Oh, wonderful.
Congratulations.
Well, we want to thank you very much. What a nice presentation. And we'll look for a place to hang it up. Right behind us? Right. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a public comment tonight? All right. We'll go on to the next, which are action items. The resolution of number 2015-02-24-01 regarding the purchase of real estate.
Good evening. Mark Westermeyer, Director for Carmel Clay Parks Department. And the resolution in front of you is for a piece of property that's really pretty special. And I'll just cover through what the process is. The process is that once we find a piece of property that we're interested in, the Park Board passes a resolution of interest. From there, it goes to the Township Board, and if they approve, we then go to the City Council. Once all three bodies have approved resolution of interest, we can actually engage an appraiser to start appraising the property and start the dialogue of whether or not we're going to purchase it and establish the price and such. So this is just the first, well, it's the first step with the township. The piece of property that we're interested in is along White River. It's north of 131st Street. And it's right at the end of our White River Greenway Trail. And it's a piece of property that about a little over 5 acres that is in between the trail and Connor Prairie. We've had preliminary discussions over the last couple of years with Connor Prairie about a potential easement that if this property could be purchased, it would allow us to extend the White River Greenway all the way up to 146th Street. So it's sort of a linchpin piece of property. Our anticipation is that we would pay for that out of impact fee funding at this point in time. So that's pretty much the whole story. The property's undeveloped at this point in time. There's some old buildings that were on it that will have to be demoed, but it'll probably be, if we can work everything out, a nice location for a trailhead and some additional parking as we expand the trail. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
And
Mark, this property would be one of the final steps in kind of an eastern Monon.
Yes. Right now the trail starts at 96th Street along Hazeldale Parkway, and ultimately it goes through our Hazel Landing Park and we're working on property easements to get it up to 116th Street. From there, it'll go through Founders Park, then over to River Heritage Park, then up by the golf course, connecting into Hamilton County's River Road Park. Our trail greenway is now connected to there, and from there, it would go all the way up to 146th Street. You can still get there without all the trail being built, but our vision is that ultimately it'll be a trail that actually runs, for the most part, right beside the river. So the views are really pretty astounding through there, and it's sort of a nature experience. I think it allows us ultimately to be able to connect through a bridge, a path from Carmel to Fishers. We're establishing the path, the City of Carmel is establishing a path from Zionsville to 106th, which we've been looking at a location for a bridge, but we haven't come up with a proper location yet. I think we can ultimately, if we get the path in all the way to 146th Street, work with Conner Prairie to possibly have a pedestrian bridge that connects Carmel to Conner Prairie as well. And those are things that we've discussed. So.
Any other questions? I don't have any, but I think it sounds pretty exciting.
Great, thank you very much.
I move we pass Resolution A.
I second. Any discussion?
None.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Item B, under action items, I would like to make the recommendation that we table that. We need further information on it, and we'll bring it up again at another time.
So moved we table action item B.
I second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Information items, Fire Department. Matt Hoffman, Fire Chief.
Just for your information, for you people from the parks, unless you want to stay, this is kind of exciting. We are going to tear down a fire station and rebuild one and add on another one and some other stuff. But I understand that you got probably to get home to eat and whatever. But you're welcome to stay, or I understand if you want to leave. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Mayor, I move we recess for 5 minutes.
I second that. We'd like to thank you.
It's about here somewhere.
All right, thanks. I'd like to call the meeting back to order and welcome Matt Hoffman, Fire Chief at Carmel Clay.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to step up before you this evening and give you an update on where we are with the construction projects that we have been working so diligently on. I'm happy to say that we've made a lot of progress since the last time I was here before you, which I believe was right around a year ago.
Yeah?
Maybe a little less than a year ago. So a lot of our conceptions that were in our head have gotten put on paper, and we've come up with some really good products, I think. And I think that they're buildings that the community can certainly be proud of in terms of their fire department. So I'm going to give you just kind of brief descriptions, and then I'll leave it up to you to ask me whatever questions you might have for me. But we'll kind of just start off with the one that we think is going to be the flagship of this project, and that's Station 44. Station 44 is the red brick building there that would replace Station 44 that is located just east of Gray Road on 131st Street. The current station is a small station, probably about 3,500 square feet, including the bay space where we keep the trucks. It's one of the two oldest stations in the city. It was built in 1980, and over the years has become functionally obsolete. When that station was built, they never dreamt that they would have 6 people stationed out of it, and as a consequence, it was designed for maybe 3. At the time, there was probably, what, 1 person at first? 2? They had 2? Okay. So in the early stages of its existence, there were only 2 people stationed in it, so we've tripled the number of people without moving any of the walls. So, well, we kind of moved the walls by making them bulge, but it has just outlived its purpose and its size for what we need to do today in the 21st century. So I'm happy to say that the firefighters played a large role in designing this fire station to make it a livable space for them, to make it an effective space for the community in terms of providing fire service. Most importantly, they were adamant about building a fire station that could be a part of the community, that looked like it fit into the neighborhood. We wanted it to be warm and inviting to the community, and they really wanted to go with an older style of look, even though it's modern construction. They wanted something that the neighborhood would look at and be proud of and come visit. And I'm happy to say that that's what we've done. We will probably see this building in its current state would be about 12,000, between 12 and 13,000 square feet under roof. That would be 2 stories. We would have the fire trucks on the first floor and some office space on the first floor. And then the living quarters would be upstairs, including the kitchen. One of the nicer facets about this particular design is the dormitory style bedrooms, where each one is encapsulated on its own in terms of a livable space. The firefighter would have an individual room. It would have a bed, a writing surface, perhaps a television monitor, and then its own private restroom. And why that's important, or why we felt that that was going to be important, was from a space-saving concept, that if we make every unit unisex, we didn't have to divide up the building into living quarters for male firefighters and female firefighters. If everybody had their own space and it was unisex, we could cut down on the amount of space it would take to build those kinds of facilities. And we would also lower the footprint in terms of providing access through the building in order to get to those areas. So as a result of that, I believe that we have figured that alone, that one concept was able to save perhaps upwards of a couple $100,000 in terms of space saving and transferring that into money savings. So we look at this being about a 12-month project. I think the goal that we're shooting for is that we would begin demolition of the current station sometime maybe towards the late part of June or the first part of July, and that we would then begin the process of putting the new station up. The other fire station that we're looking at working on in the next few months is Fire Station 43, located at 106th and Keystone. This one is a station that is probably a little bit older than Station 44. However, it has not had the manpower living in it that 44's has. It was designed, again, for about 3 people. We have 4 people that run out of that fire station. Because of the fact that that particular district is built out as much as it is, we don't anticipate the need in the future for expanding services or adding extra equipment out there in the immediate future. So we think that the single engine with 4 people is a sufficient setup for now and for the future. In the event that something changes, there's enough of a remodel going on that we have identified space that if we did need to add an ambulance, which would require 2 more people to be on shift, that we could take this footprint, and we do have room enough to build 2 bedrooms in a second-story area that would right now currently be used for storage, but if we needed to expand into it and make it living quarters, we could do so with relative ease and expand any services that we can't see for today. Basically, what we're doing with Station 43 is very similar in terms of livable space with Station 44. We're going to not quite go with the dormitory style where the enclosed living units are for the individual. Everybody will have their own bedroom, but they will probably have a Jack and Jill restroom in between where they share the space. Again, that was a way that we could considerably cut down on adding on square footage, which drives the cost up, and still have a usable space that provides for privacy for both men and women. This project is going to leave a good bulk of the the building intact, and we will remodel around it. The footprint doesn't change a whole lot, but we do increase the kitchen space, the living room space, and certainly the bedroom space. I think the project timeline for that is probably to be finished sometime around October, I would guess, if we started sometime this summer. So it's a smaller project and one that we can get accomplished much sooner as compared to 44s. But again, we think that it was this, one of the good things about this station is that this is another one of those stations that's friendly, it's inviting, it's a part of the neighborhood. The folks don't want to see these stations move out of their neighborhoods, and we're able to expand our footprint a little bit with relative ease, still be good neighbors and not have to move the fire station. Do you have any questions about the two fire stations that we have brought up this evening?
No.
I'd like to ask you to review again where the firemen will be going as they're building a new facility, because people ask about that.
Sure.
It'd be good to hear it from you.
Yeah, well, the goal, number one goal, is to find a location that is very close to where the current fire station is. We're identifying some possibilities in terms of getting temporary residents for both locations. The ambulance, because 44s has more than one piece of equipment, I don't know yet if we're going to be able to keep those two trucks together, the engine and the ambulance. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to keep those two trucks together since space is going to be at a premium. Temporary space is going to be at a premium. We are working with, we're going to be talking to the schools about utilizing some garage space across the street from the current Station 44. We are also talking to other businesses in the area that might be willing to help us out in terms of putting up our firefighters for a year. For Station 43, again, we're talking with, we're looking at rental options. We're looking at the possibility of getting rental trailers, construction trailers. That one's going to be a little bit easier simply because we're only having to look to house 4 individuals for about 4 months while this renovation takes place. So that one's going to be the least of our worries. Station 44, that's an ongoing process, and we are trying to identify exactly where we're going to put our guys for a year. The ambulance, we very well might put at the headquarters station. The good news is, in terms of response time, our EMS is run off of our fire engines as a primary, and then any paramedic service that's a backup to that comes from an ambulance. So it's important for us to keep our fire engines where they are, or as close to where they are, because they're the primary providers of EMS. So we're confident that we can provide ALS service or advanced life support service to that area. Even if we move the ambulance out of that district, the primary delivery service is going to be from that fire engine. So there's minimal interruption in our ability to provide coverage for that area.
Thank you very much for explaining that. Anything else, Matt? Thanks so much. It's very exciting.
I'm interested in the elephant in the room. What we're doing with the training center.
Oh, right.
Okay.
We haven't talked about that yet tonight.
Yeah, 106th Street and Gray Road, on the south end of the water plant, there is 4 acres that that belong to the city. The city has been willing to work with us in terms of using that as a potential site for maintenance, training, and EOC, Emergency Operations Center. And as far as I know, the plans that we've come up with on that, that is the building we've come up with fits on that footprint. We want to double check with the city before we make any further moves on that particular property to make sure that we aren't going to gobble up everything that they're going to need that property for. So we want to make sure that the fire department doesn't encroach on any future plans in terms of expanding that water site. But as it stands right now, the plan is to build a maintenance and training facility there at 106th and Gray Road.
Very good.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. I
Great
appreciate
to
the
see all of
opportunity.
that, too.
Thank you.
Madam President, what
Yes.
you, just for your information, and if you have any other questions, we have John Barbie, our construction manager here. We have Chris Hagan from the architect firm. We have Andrew Perry, which is working with Angie on the financial part of it, and then Tom DeRue, which works in Brian Bosma's office. So we have the team right here. If you have a question about anything from the financing to the nailing of the boards or whatever, these are the four gentlemen. And of course, and I do want to give Chief Hoffman and the fire department a lot of credit. They had worked with Mr. Barbie and Mr. Cooper, Kevin, which is Chris's partner, on this project from ground zero. They have spent numerous hours, and I'm going to say hundreds of hours, of putting this together. You know, when they went, we opened it up and says, hey, whatever you want, you put in there. Well, they did that, and then we had to peel it back a little bit. You know, and like I say, one good thing was we came up, and thanks to Andrew and our financial people, we came up with some extra money. So, and then they kind of changed some designs, and that goes back to the fire department, working with the architect. So there's a lot of things going on, ongoing, to, if we find more money, to do some of the things. But I want to give these people all the credit in the world. I mean, I'm just sitting there saying, okay, we got to have money for this, we got to have money for that, but it's going very well. And I thank all you gentlemen, and Angie and Brian, for even though Brian's not a gentleman, but thank you guys for everything you've done. I mean, this thing is really moving along very good, and I appreciate it.
Well, I'd certainly like to invite any of you to come to the mic and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world to make all this come together and what we hope it will be.
I have a cost update from early January till now.
Great.
That you
We
can
need you to
share.
go to the mic and say
Yeah,
what you're saying.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. John Barbie with Envoy, construction manager for the project. Early January, we came and we presented to you where our schematic design estimates were and where the dreams had led us in total cost. Those ranges are on the far left of the sheet. I just handed you those three columns. The three columns to the left of that, I'm sorry, to the far right, the three columns to the left of that are where we are approximately a month later. It was February 12th that we updated these. More than just us updating cost was a lot of work that Doug mentioned, redesigning, downsizing, how do we get the same thing, more bang for our buck. 43 was a significant change. You'll see the target cost is almost half of what it was, but there's really not an appreciable difference of what they're gaining in having the living spaces improved and remodeled. It's a lot less square foot. Instead of putting a workout room in a basement, it's now going into a third bay, which also there's an alternate plan to design that out off of the east side of the property. So if funds are available on bid day, that wouldn't even have to take that third bay. So that's 43, and then 44 relatively stayed the same. Some design did change. We worked on the facade to really nail down and meet that look and impression and that homey feel that the chief mentioned. And then the maintenance and training facility, that was obviously where the largest concessions were made. There was where we had the largest and biggest dreams, and we brought that back into reality of what can actually happen. One thing I want to make note is we show there on line 10 alternate bid, $500,000. That is an allowance right now for interior space renovations in there. If we look at our high numbers, we're about $589,000 short in this current rendition of this estimate. So that number would be an alternate bid if there's additional funds that show up between now and bidding, or we actually have better bid numbers in the target range. You'll see that we're short from our funding analysis of $265,000. we can get a large part of that and just see how far we can stretch this dollar. And that's not the only alternate that will be bid. There will be others. So there's kind of a shopping list at the end of the day for the chief to look at and assess with where is his biggest bang for his buck. So we all feel good as a team where we're headed now with available funds and the scope. Would still like to find some additional money to get our cushion on that high side.
Any questions?
Well, yes. I mean, I want to hear from the chief. Are you getting everything you want? Is this, from what Envoy and the architects have presented, is it everything you need?
I was
Yes.
going to say need.
Okay.
Yes.
more than
Yeah,
one,
yeah, no, we want a lot more.
I know.
But this,
No,
this
this is-
satisfies you? There'll be no regrets on the project saying, I wish I had done
No,
this?
sir.
Or okay. John, you're saying we're 589 to the bad side as it stands. I find that very hard to believe, so my next question for the accountant is, $589,000 does not seem like a lot of money to raise, that should raise a hiccup, especially with, are we still talking about this COIT money coming in, that is future funding?
We have, yes, we have more money. As a matter of fact, I'll let Andrew talk about what he found.
Well, since we last talked, we've engaged an underwriter, Fifth Third Securities, and we gave them a revenue constraint because the whole idea was we wanted the tax rate for the 2000 bonds, which expires this year, to stay the same for this new bond issue. And we gave him a revenue constraint. And he ran numbers based on updated market conditions, and we got a larger project fund of approximately $6.4 million. So that larger project fund allowed the project team to incorporate some more of the things that the fire department wanted to include. And then also, you know, if push comes to shove and for whatever reason interest rates take, you know, a turn for the worse and we're not able to get the project fund that we had intended right now of $6.4 million, we do have this $500,000 contingent in there that, if need be, there are some things that we can cut back to make work. But in terms of additional funds being allowed, the last meeting we had, and Doug might want to comment a little bit on this, there was an additional $300,000 of cash contribution
Out of the fire fund. Out of the fire fund.
out of the fire fund to provide towards this. You know, unfortunately, Angie's not here tonight, and I know that she's worked closely with Doug in terms of the whole COIT arrangement and how that plays out. So I don't necessarily want to comment at this point exactly of what available funds will be available from that deal to apply to this.
Over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
There is not, I'll tell you what, Matt, there is not going to be a problem. If at 6.9, this is not going to be a problem.
Coming up with that money would not be
Yes.
a problem.
It's not going to be a problem.
My other question is, and I'm sure you're calculating this, but so far, all payments for design and construction management and everything that's gone on so far is the checks have been written straight out of an account. Now, it was my intent, I'm not going to speak for Mary or Paul, that we not replenish that money, that money be, you know, so if it's a $500,000 design fee, we're not going to replenish that with the bond. We're paying cash for that. That was what I wanted.
Well, and what we're doing right now, we're using money out of our 1111 fund.
Right.
Which I have 300,000 of the COIT, you know, and we're using that, plus we used, 100 and some odd from the rainy day at the end of the year. So what we're doing is, once, the way Brian wrote that up on the agreement is once these buildings are put together and everything, and we're well on our way, we know we've got the money, it's up to the board if you guys want to replenish those funds. You don't have to, and it's not going to be required or anything, but let's say, for instance, that we come in under budget. Right, John? No. But if we come under budget, then we could say, okay, we're going to go ahead and replenish the funds that we took it out initially. I'm not planning on doing that.
I'm just a proponent of borrowing less. And that's what
Oh,
I'd like to
yeah,
see.
absolutely.
But no, but we need what, oh yeah, Andrew, I'm sorry, I'm looking over here. But we need every dollar we can get right now. okay? And we want to make sure that we continue to move ahead, that nothing slows us down, and that's why that 300,000 in our fire fund right now is being used. Whatever we need to get done, let's get it done, because, you know, we've got this deadline we're trying to move. We'll worry about that later. If it comes that we don't have the money left over to put back into that, I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I am not concerned. I think that we need to just move ahead and get this thing done, and I think we're going to be fine with the money. I really do. After our last meeting, I think there was things that came up that after looking at it, and it goes out to this team, that they've put some things together that I think we're going to be fine. I honestly do.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments? Doug, do you have any? Do we have any legal comments?
You know, and like I say, these are the guys that that when we have our monthly meetings, and that these are the guys that will be coming in here and
Great.
talking to us from time to time and let us know how it's going along. But I have a good feeling about this, and I know I keep talking about it, but I give a lot of credit to the guys, the firefighters, and Chief Hoffman and his staff, because they really sharpen their pencils on this. Especially when you look at this financial sheet, you know, coming up with another $500,000 here and there, I think
Yeah.
we're going to be fine. And I just was looking at, just for your information, I was looking at our projections of what we would be paying out once this bond, the new bond goes into effect. We're about $20,000 difference than what we're paying right now.
Oh, really?
That's it. Actually, it's going to be less than that. You know, but I was just looking at what our debt is now for the old fire station we built in 2000, and what the projections are from Angie's office on what they're going to be. So we're going from maybe actually about 463,000 a year to like 479 a year. So
477.
or 77.
So we're going from about roughly
Yep.
477.
Yep, please.
The debt service payment on the 2000 bonds that is to be made on January 15 of 2016 is $477,750. And the projected debt service for these new bonds is right there, plus or minus $2,500.
Oh, it is
Wow.
higher. Yeah.
Some are less, some are higher. It's just over the course of the life of the bonds. So we're right there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Financial questions from the board. Do you have any, Matt?
I have a question, Doug, but I'd like it answered maybe at the next meeting,
Okay.
and that has to do with the tax increases. And we knew it was sort of coming, but the auditor's office just released a 124% increase in property tax on the unincorporated area.
Yes, we knew, and it was going to
Yeah.
hit for 2 to 3 years, and that's because, you know, when we lost Southwest Clay.
Right.
And what I've been trying to do is use some of the COA to cover some of that.
Sure.
And now that's going to be going away, so that's what we're getting hit with. And matter of fact, I had talked to some people over the last couple of years, and some of them being businesses down here. They said, I don't care. They blew it off. Last year, I had 2 phone calls and 2 people came into my office. And once I explained to them about Southwest Clay going into the city, and I said, you know, that I knew this was going to happen, and people just wouldn't listen. They knew. I didn't even have to finish my story. They said, okay, we know. But I get a lot of people asking about, how come we're not in the city? You know, I do get people asking that question, because as we go through here, we are transitioning. The people are transitioning in down here, you know, and a lot of people think we are in the city of Carmel, and you know, they just don't understand that.
Are there any informational meetings at all that they are being held to educate the people that are living here or moving in to know what's going on?
No, you know, it kind of goes back to the realtors, and when you look, and this is the thing, you go back and you look at our taxes. Clay Township in general, Carmel Clay, okay, now whether you're in the city or out of the city, is still cheaper than anywhere in the county. I mean, for the most part, I think White River Township and Wayne Township might be a little bit less, but we are still our tax. what happens is people buy these homes and they're a lot more expensive, and so their taxes go a little bit higher because of that. But no, it's you're not going to be living in Carmel and Clay Township. It's just one of those things. But now, yeah, I had last year four people, two phone calls and two people that walked in, and when I started talking about it, they said, "You don't have to say anymore. We know."
Okay.
So there's just not a lot of concerns.
You're the point of contact for explaining it.
Pardon me?
You're okay being the point of contact.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to have a direct line to Andrew and Angie. I mean, they've been very helpful. So you know, but really, that's. I mean, I expected me to have a line coming out of my office last year or the year before, and nobody showed up. And I'm thinking, this is really weird, because if I was looking at my taxes and I seen that, I would, you know. But we just had, unfortunately, we had about 2-3 years of this that we were going through. But you know what? You go to Westville or Fishers or Zionsville, and you're going to pay more taxes than what you do here. So, you know.
Okay. Board comments? Matt?
Just that Envoy and Access and our accountants, everybody has done, and I'm not the most patient person when it comes to getting answers, and every one of you have been on the spot answering my questions, my phone calls, my emails, that are very pressing and frequently redundant, and I really appreciate that.
I'd like to second that. Certainly, it's a very visual approach to be able to see what's going on, and once the ground, somebody goes in and turns the first shovel, it will become all that much more exciting. So we thank you, and Matt, thank you very much for your presentation. Well, I always appreciate it, and to the parks. Well, great parks. This is just wonderful. So we had a great meeting tonight. This is wonderful. Announcements.
Just for your information, I don't know if you've been reading up on what the city is doing with this the bicycles
Oh, yes.
that they're setting throughout
Right.
there. Well, I ran across the mayor one day, and he says, "Have you thought about putting any down there by the township?" And I said, "No, but you know what? If I do, I'd probably write it up to City Hall or write it up to Bub's to eat or whatever." So I'm working on a contract with Brian's office and do an agreement on putting 6 bikes down here that people can come in and rent out. And we'll see how it goes.
When we see you riding around Carmel, we'll know.
Zagster, Zagstner or something like that. But they called me today, but I said, well, Brian gets out with the contract, you know. I think they're going to go live the end of March, I think the city is. But yeah, we're going to have 6. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it over here or put it in the fire department, whichever. But we're going to have 6 where you come in and, you know, you give them your information and you take the bike. The nice thing about it is you can take this bike, and the reason it's nice working with Carmel is they're going to have them throughout the community. If they leave here, they can go to City Hall or go to another location, the parks or whatever. If it starts raining, they can leave the bike there,
Oh, that's a good thing.
you know, and to ride with somebody. And they come out, I think it's every week, and they move the bikes around and everything and check on them. So I think it's a good idea, but I want to just let you guys know. And also next Monday, Tuesday, is the legislative session downtown, if you're interested. Okay, other than that,
All right.
nothing else.
Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.